Hey there, my name's Curtis Lucas, and you're watching Empire Building. Before I get into this video, I did want to address something that's really been getting on my nerves lately. By now, most people are aware that YouTube's got a pretty big problem these days with scam bots. They're running rampant, and they're all over YouTube, not just on this channel, and particularly on the crypto channels. I spend a great deal of time going through trying to clean up the comment section, but typically by the time I get to it, a lot of people have already seen it. I'd like to think that most people are aware of these things and aren't going to succumb or fall for these kind of tactics, but if they're doing them, it's because it works. So if anybody's messaging you down in the comment section, trying to get you to get in touch with them over Telegram or WhatsApp, just ignore it. Better yet, report them. And if it looks like a message from me, the way you'll know it's actually from me is that my name will be highlighted. It's not going to have the check next to it like you might see on some other YouTube channels. You don't get that until you get up to 100,000 subscribers, I believe. So we got a little ways to go before I get that. But that's enough of that. I just want to make sure everybody's staying safe. Now let's get on with the video. So today was a very strange day. Honestly, I wasn't sure what to expect after I uploaded my video on Marathon's facility that's currently under construction in Hardin, Montana. Honestly, part of me thought that sharing those photos might actually scare people off, but I thought it best to actually share what was happening on site, seeing as how one of the viewers of this channel was generous enough to share the photos that he was able to take with me directly. It seemed a waste to not share that with others. Now, I was correct in that some people really didn't understand what they were looking at and jumped to certain conclusions by making certain judgments about the condition of the containers in their current state. But I did do my best to communicate what was in those photos and educate people with exactly what it is they were looking at. Not everybody has a construction background, so I really thought that there was an enormous amount of value in that, especially considering there's not a whole lot of communication that we get in terms of constant updates. Now, before I actually recorded that video, I actually went on to Patreon and shared some of those videos or some of those pictures with the members on Patreon. And I asked, hey, look, I'm going to be making a video on this. And I asked to see what the input was from members of Patreon to see what they thought, whether or not this is something that I should make a video on and share with everybody. And the overwhelming consensus was that they agreed. This should get out there. So I made the video and thought, I'll do the best I can and be damned if anybody doesn't understand what it is that they're looking at. And to my surprise, the market had an overwhelming reaction. Now, I'm not so convinced that the move we witnessed today was actually a direct result of the video that I uploaded. Now, I do realize that the reach of this channel might be a little bit more than it once was, but I guess I'm still having a hard time imagining that someone like myself can actually have that kind of influence. I mean, if I really did have that kind of power, it would have come in handy when my contracts were expiring out of the money a few weeks ago. It didn't seem to have any impact then. I'm not so sure if it had any impact now. And if the SEC is listening, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. Again, I want to thank everyone on Patreon for all your support. It is greatly appreciated. And if there's anybody else who would like to join that community, there's a link down in the description. And if you're in the US, you'll also find down there links to Webull, where you can sign up and get 2 free stocks. And if you're Canadian, click the link and sign up for Wealthsimple, where you can get commission-free trading. And when using the link down in the description, you'll get $10 after you deposit $100 and make your first trade. But like I said, it was quite a remarkable day. I could not have been more pleased. And this account alone was up $120,870. This is the primary account where I actually utilize options. So it tends to be a whole lot more volatile than my other account where I simply just hold. And it certainly has proven to be quite a winning strategy. This account is currently valued at just over $1 million US, with today's gain sitting at approximately $138,000. So combined, that sits me at a nice cool $259,100 in total gains in one day. Now, a lot of you might have noticed that throughout the day, or at least in the morning, there was actually a period of time where Mara was behaving rather strange. This entire run-up throughout the entire morning period was while Bitcoin was actually dropping. It almost seemed every time Bitcoin dropped, Mara surged even higher. And this is one of the reasons that I am constantly saying trying to time this is very, very difficult. They will literally go in opposite directions sometimes. Until recently, we had witnessed Mara's stock and, well, really all the stocks would drop even though Bitcoin was going up. And now here we're seeing the exact opposite. They are tethered to Bitcoin's price, but they're not in lockstep. And we've also witnessed that every dog has its day when it comes to these stocks. Sometimes one will run a lot more than the others. Sometimes they'll run in opposite directions. Very difficult to predict. This is why what I constantly preach is develop your own investment thesis. Decide what your balance is going to be. How much of each one of these stocks do you want to own? Make your decision, cost average into your positions, and then do nothing for as long as possible. Some days it'll be one stock, other days it'll be another stock. It's not always going to be yours, and it's not always going to make sense. But the important thing is that as long as you're holding, it doesn't matter when the stars are not aligned. When your ship finally comes in, you'll be there waiting. You'll be ready. To take that analogy a little further, the traders are the ones always trying to find the next ship that's about to leave. But in their running back and forth, more times than not, they're going to miss that ship when it's finally its turn. On longer time horizons, the act of doing nothing will almost always yield better results than doing something. Warren Buffett has been quoted as saying that the stock market is a mechanism for transferring wealth from the impatient to the patient, which is actually a misquote. What he actually said was the stock market is a mechanism for transferring wealth from the active to the inactive. I know it seems backwards. You may be overly accustomed to the idea that you have to work for your money. That's not what the stock market is meant for. That's not what investing is meant to do. It's entirely the opposite. Your money is supposed to be there working for you. So let it do its job, and you do your job. That's what this channel was always about. Build your empire. Focus more on educating yourself, and that education will go a long way to giving you a sense of calm when those seas get a little rocky. But now that we're approaching the end of another month, there is a possibility that we may see an announcement from Marathon that they have completed the installation of all the miners they were expecting to be delivered throughout the month of March. And this, to me, is really what I think the market was reacting to. That and the fact that, let's face it, Bitcoin is just a hair away from new all-time highs. And it doesn't take a genius to know that the value proposition behind Mara is getting stronger with each passing week. One thing I do think that Mara would benefit from is a little bit more transparency and giving regular updates. And not just press releases, but take a page out of Hut 8's book. Having an active public relations officer And engaging with shareholders on Twitter really does go a long way. Now, I know that the CEO of Marathon, Marek Okamoto, does occasionally watch this channel. So if he is listening, perhaps he could be persuaded to open those floodgates a little bit and share a little bit more information in terms of the progress that Marathon is making. Because of the nature of the things that I like to focus on, watching a company like this build out its infrastructure, build its empire in real time is exactly what I would want to see. Because it's an impressive sight, and I really can't wait to see more. But that's all I've got for this one. Now let's get back to empire building.